Hey everybody, ModelMan here. Presented for your consideration are some aftermarket parts for the Mobius Models Jupiter 2 kit. Here we have several products generously supplied by Elliot Brown of Fedoratron, and that's Fedoratron.com. As soon as I sliced the seal on these boxes, they burst open at me, so I knew I just had to get this on camera right away. So let's take a look at what we got. Over here on the right, 3 circular engine sequencers. The one on the top left is the unassembled version of the one on the right. And then on the bottom here is a version that will fit the 12-inch kit release from Polar Lights. We'll take a look at those in a bit. And over here, why don't I get this on the tripod and we'll take a look. So the box itself is certainly well packed with enough peanuts to keep everything safe. So we've got one pack here. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, 4 or 5 different packs in here. And over here we've just got one item. And nothing in the bottom of the box. Let's take a look at the packages themselves. So while technically there are 7 piles of products here on the table, I'm only going to review 5 different ones. Up in the top right corner is the 12-inch version of the 18-inch version, which is over here for the engine effect. The sequencer that drives that is the same one here. Over here we've got photo etch for a computer wall and some lighting kits for that. We'll take a look. Over here we've got something called the Pulsator. This is an interesting little device. It lets you blink LEDs without using an IC chip. What it basically does is uses the blink rates from self-blinking ones, and then you plug in any LEDs that you want, and these blinkings will drive those. And if you don't want these colors in your blink, you can simply paint them out. And over here we've got an interesting one. This is preliminarily called On for a While circuit. And then right here in the middle, I don't even have to look anymore. This is outright just a must-have. I mean, this pretty much constitutes the review right here. What a great idea. I'm surprised this hasn't been done yet. So let's open these packs up and see what we got. So first up, let's talk about the freezer wall. Up on the top is the inside bracket where the part goes. On the left is the manufacturer's part as it comes with the kit. To its right is my attempt to improve that by cutting out some of that brass mesh on the side and gluing that into place. As you can see, it just basically became a glue bomb. Not only do you get the freezer wall itself, you get the floor piece too. Not as shiny as the competition, but that's really just for show. The final shiny wash that other photo etch manufacturers put on their brass to give it that extra glow is not present on Fedoratron, but functional is functional, and that's what matters. The tube here on the right is obviously to be glued on to the back like that. So you snip off 4 posts from this guy here, try and get them as even as possible. A printed template guide on the cardboard here, or any paperwork that comes with the product. I'm told the instructions are still being worked on. But pretty darn straightforward, and a vitally missing piece for the Jupiter 2. If you're into photo etch, this is a must-have. Off the bat, no questions asked, flat out. If you think freezer walls, then Fedoratron is definitely the one. Next up, let's take a look at the computer wall. And here is a look at the circuit wall replacement kit. Here's the manufacturer's part. The circuit wall will go into the left side here. If you were watching any of my build videos maybe a year or so ago, you saw a prototype of this board demoed on screen. Elliot saw what I was doing initially, and that inspired him to create this kit. I am not receiving any proceeds for it, so my review is not financially motivated at all there. So this page of directions is actually a bunch of notes at this point. Elliot is still working on the packaging for this one, as this note here says on the cardboard, which protects this light box, which goes on the back wall over here. According to the notes here, you can see that the 3 LEDs get strung into this board right there, and they sit at the bottom of the kit, so the lights will shine directly up into this scoop, and you should get a really nice even lighting effect. You'd probably want to paint the back, you'd probably want to paint the entire thing black and then probably the inside silver for the best, brightest effects. So not only do you get the light back with the LEDs and appropriate resistors, or as Elliot says here, he's still working out the exact values of them. Right now it's said that the resistors are set for a 9-volt power source. So if you're running 12 volts on your model, you can still put additional resistors onto this to get it down to the 9 volts. But the kit itself is not geared to run directly on 9 volts. You will burn out your LEDs if you plug in anything stronger. And you can see here in the photo that the effect is really nice. Absolutely gorgeous. So this piece gets trimmed down according to the registration marks in the upper corners there and the bottom corners here, depending on how you want to fit it into there. In front of that goes up to 3 of these. Right now that central mesh is sitting on top of the kit part, the clear wall. And as you can see, it tugged it up, and that's because it's a really glove tight fit. So you can either use the kit part with that central mesh or replace the kit part with this mesh in front of this window, or you can even cut those 2 central bars out and replace them with this frame. So there are several options going on right there for that. And along with this gorgeous computer wall, you can't go wrong. If you're lighting the kit, this again is a must-have. This is a second unique product for the Jupiter 2 in a row now. And I'm surprised it hasn't been done before. This is a very simple and elegant way to light up the entire piece. You could probably use some colored cellophane or a Sharpie marker to color in the individual squares to get them the exact right colors you want. What a great piece. So let's move on to product number 3. And next up is the aptly named On For A While circuit. I imagine if directions came with this, it would be much clearer as to what goes where and how everything's going on. This is clearly 6 volts worth of batteries, and the positive and negative are wired into, I think it's that one and this one. Everything on the board is clearly labeled as to what it does. So text such as in here, negative power connection, place plug on opposite side, bring power connection to these leads, normally closed, normally open, common, switch 1, momentary switch connections, and so on and so forth. So the way it would seem to work is that you put this in between your power source and your object. A power button goes on this, you hit it, and a random time later, which I would guess is taken up by these guys here. So I can see the appeal for this. However, it's very, very big. That relay on the right there is just fairly huge. The Jupiter is a big model, and if you totally emptied it, you would have an easy time placing this. But as filled, even this would be tough to fit in there in some cases. Much less a smaller model. What I could really see this useful for is powering a display case. So if you have several models that you light up, put them into a single power strip, put a switch, put this on as a switch, turn it on, walk away, and some other random time later, it'll shut down by itself. That's a nice little option right there. So as relates to the Jupiter 2, same basic thing. It can be used, but it's definitely not specific to it. It's a nice notion. It needs instructions. And apparently maybe some switches? Let's take a look at the next one. And here is the Pulsator. A fairly simple kit. A board, a few resistors and such, and 3 self-blinking LEDs. Never mix these up with your own stash of LEDs. They aren't labeled. The instructions don't say what the blink rate is for each LED, but over time, if they're all wired in, they do drift. So essentially you can use this board with 1, 2, or 3 LEDs, and the blinking of those will drive additional LEDs of your choosing. You can then paint out, or with the included shroud here, mask off. There is a video on Fedoratron's site of this Pulsator in action. I think it probably could have been shot a little better. I expect the flickering effect is much more distinct in person, simply because of the frame rates of cameras not coinciding with the blink rates. So this is definitely a cool little board. It looks fairly simple to do. The instructions are straightforward. You do have some drilling to do on the board itself, as with all Fedoratron products. A 1/32 drill bit put onto a drill press or by hand. The directions suggest that you do all the holes up front while you're at it, because it will be much more of a pain to do them later once you've actually started soldering things in. There is a little bit of soldering to do on this. It's not too bad. The instructions do say that heat shrink will be provided. It wasn't in this iteration right here. The instructions are fairly well laid out. Check out the video on the website of this thing in action, and if I use it for the Jupiter 2, I will obviously be wiring it up, and I'll do another video then. Next up, I think we're taking a look at the engine.